Long ago, at Pensacola Bay, where sea waves mingled with sweet river currents, a secret lay untouched by daring souls. Kiana, a pregnant mermaid shunned as a monster, bore the burden of saving a parched, dying waterway. But when her river prince's cry echoed at birth, magic unfurled. Barren streams surged anew, fish swarmed back, and gulls circled a sun-drenched sky. In that radiant, ethereal glow, those who once scorned Kiana knelt in remorse, while Celeste, the river queen, stood awestruck, humbled by the miracle of forgiveness. Will the hostile forces relent before the might of maternal love and the ocean's enchantment? Tune in to uncover a journey beyond resentment and await the next thrilling chapter. Don't forget to subscribe to African Tales Best, hit the bell and share to catch every twist ahead. Once upon a time, on a hazy afternoon at Pensacola Bay, as the day's final sunlight shimmered, blending with the salty breeze, the scene seemed to linger in the ocean's silken embrace. On the warm shore, where fine sand mingled with crushed shells still bore the dark, damp stains of the tide, the African-American community along the coast gathered, awaiting something mystical. Amid the crowd, a strange figure emerged, drawing every curious gaze. This woman was unlike anyone who had ever graced this land. Her skin glowed with the hue of young jade laced with beach sands brown, glistening in the twilight like scales hiding the ocean's deep power. Her hair defied nature's laws, long silken strands cascading like sea threads, swaying gently with the wind as if a regal creature had risen from the depths. Her eyes, vast as legendary wells, brimmed with salty memories, as though she'd witnessed countless sunrises over crashing waves. Whispers swirled about her origins. She must be a mermaid, a man, fresh from a long fishing trip, murmured to his companions. No one can explain that skin, those eyes. Only sea creatures from old tales could bear such a presence. The words spread swiftly, weaving through weathered wooden homes, past mossy, damp walls of fishermen's shacks, tapping at every curious soul. Some fumbled for phones, trying to capture the rare moment, yet their eyes struggled to trust what they saw and heard. Tales of the mermaid, pregnant with a river prince's child, blazed through the community like wildfire. They spoke of the quiet river at the village's edge, where the river prince, a youth of noble blood craving freedom above all, had secretly ventured, drawn by nameless sweet emotions. They said he'd met and loved Kiana, where salt and fresh water mingled, forging a strange bond between worlds that seemed irreconcilable. Thus began a web of rumors. She carries a being half sea, half river, unseen in our history. To many, this union was uncanny, a curse that could herald calamity. Within days, whispers turned to wary questions. If this child is born, what will happen to Pensacola Bay's waters? Could a hybrid taint or muddle the distinct streams? In parents' eyes, concern wasn't just for the prince and mermaid, but for their children's future. Kids growing up on these gentle waves, seemingly serene, yet hiding sudden upheavals. Sometimes, a mother on the beach, hands buried in warm sand, glanced up, eyes fraught with worry. Maybe the rumors are wrong. Perhaps she's a savior, come to revive our waters. But doubt swiftly returned, furrowing her brow. If not, if this child brings ruin, can we stop it in time? The air grew thick, pierced only by the sound, soft lapping of waves, as if soothing their torn hearts. As the sunset faded, the horizon bloomed purple-pink, casting a dreamlike veil where reality and myth blurred. In that moment, Kiana's silhouette was a spellbinding stroke, impossible to ignore. Her form held unearthly beauty, like the ocean rising to shore, powerful, proud, yet tender to the soul. Sunrays danced on her skin, sparking pearlescent glints, dissolving doubts into awe and quiet reverence. Among hundreds of watching eyes, Kiana walked slowly. She didn't bow her head or shrink from curious, judgmental stares. Her swollen belly was unmistakable, cradling a fragile being, half river, half sea, both pitiable and potent. Each subtle ripple within seemed a whisper from a child destined to shift the bay's fate. Kiana's face retained its serene grace, though flickers of strain crossed her eyes, quickly softened by a gentle smile, as if calming herself against looming storms. Many recalled old tales from elders, claiming that in dire times, a river-sea hybrid would emerge to save the people. Yet, while fear gripped most, a few hopeful hearts whispered, "Perhaps Kiana will unite salt and sweet, reviving our dry streams." These murmurs like seeds took root, stirring visions of prosperity. An old man leaning on a cane by the shore's grasses watched silently. Raised by the river, he'd seen great floods and knew water's untamed might. At Kiana's sight, he turned away, eyes tracing the distant current. His gnarled fingers trembled on his cane, as if his aged heart raced at her unexpected presence. In his soul, he wondered, am I about to witness a rare turning point where river and sea's union sparks a miracle? Or is this mere illusion, beguiling young hearts? Along the beach, distant eyes tracked Kiana's every move. Parents, fishermen, fishmongers, labourers who knew life through water's grace. Despite fear, a vague longing stirred, that Kiana's presence wasn't mere superstition. In her gentle eyes and soft form, they sensed a grand message, that nature's pulse could teach humanity to cherish life. They recalled long droughts, fishless bays, wilted sprouts. Now before them stood a chance, a faint light in the dark, though its truth remained unclear. These conflicting gazes made the scene tense, yet sacred. Waves hushed, leaving only echoes, like the sea's lullaby to witnessing souls. They knew Kiana's arrival changed everything. A new chain of events had begun. And they, the onlookers, were its first witnesses. Before them wasn't just a pregnant stranger, but a shrouded destiny, one that could reshape Pensacola Bay and their lives forever. Rumours of Kiana's calamity flared and faded, but hope smouldered in honest hearts. They wondered, if the tales are wrong, is Kiana our saviour, a blessing to revive our barren lives? In the twilight's haze where sunset and sea breeze entwined, the future was unclear, but one truth held. From this moment, Pensacola Bay would never be the same. Kiana's story, and that of her river-sea child, would be etched as legend. A reminder that even amid doubt and fear, hope's faint glow lights the way. From the earliest days when Pensacola Bay's tranquil air brimmed with the ocean's salty breath, seeds of conflict smouldered within hidden coral walls and weathered wooden homes. River Queen Celeste, a woman wielding supreme authority and the heavy mantle of her royal lineage, could not abide the truth that her son, the River Prince, had chosen love with a sea-born creature, a pregnant mermaid. To Celeste's eyes, Kiana wasn't a beacon of hope, but a harbinger of betrayal, threatening the glory and power her river dynasty had guarded for generations. When news broke of Kiana's appearance, her belly visibly swelling, Celeste felt the threads of her control unravel, leaving a storm-swept void in her heart. The bay's community had long lived by water's unspoken laws, river, sea, salt mingling with sweet. Balance was sacrosanct. Any shift could unleash calamity. Celeste, more than anyone, understood this, having witnessed river clans crumble when currents faltered. To her, Kiana wasn't a frail woman daring to breach royal sanctity, but a looming menace. She loathed the thought that her son's child could forever alter the flow, shatter tradition, and erode the honor her family had bled to preserve. Meanwhile, whispers of the mermaid bearing a monstrous child flared into a raging blaze across the community. Tales spread that if Kiana stayed, black rain would shroud the sky, the sea would fade to ash, and no fish would survive. Fishermen casting nets found waters clouding, silver-headed fish washing dead ashore. Mothers hauling shrimp baskets mourned sparse catches, shadows of harvest hopes. Children trailing parents to sea relied on thriving shoals to sustain their youth. Now the threat of a river-sea hybrid deepened their dread. Eyes turned to Kiana each time she stood on the sand, gazes alien and hostile. Lips sealed tight, murmurs hissed. She's a monster, to be purged before the waters blacken. In fish markets and harbours, the tale surged like a rogue wave, drowning dreams of peace. Malicious whispers wove through gossip. If no one stops Kiana, our life by the sea will turn to nightmare. In this fever, Celeste ruthlessly fanned hatred's flames. She summoned loyalists, pirate guards once paid to patrol river borders, and sowed lies. Kiana wasn't just an invader, but a usurper eyeing the throne. In a secret meeting lit by flickering flames in a cavern's depths, Celeste schemed a sacrificial rite to cleanse the sin, purging the waters of the curse. Her aim wasn't only to shield her dynasty, but to proclaim that only the river royals deserved dominion over all streams. Her recruits, gaunt men in black headscarves, eyes glinting with fear, were promised blessings, calm seas and bountiful catches post-rite. The bay's air grew oppressive. Every path to the docks or fish stalls buzzed with incitement. Clear the way for the ritual, or water's wrath will spare none. A mere frown from the queen seemed to hush the waves, as if they feared her fading royal aura. Kiana, sensing the icy chill when out of sight, only bowed her head, eyes fleetingly sad. Yet within her chest, a mother's steadfast temple rose above pain, vowing to protect the life growing inside. Her love and duty made her an unyielding symbol. Amid the chaos, some hearts quietly saw Kiana differently. They noticed her hands offering warm bread to hungry children on the sand, defying slander. They saw her gentle eyes as she slipped fish and loaves to frail youths, acts unseen by most. Her last drops of milk, meant for her unborn child, became sustenance as she dove into the sea, seeking food for the needy. On quiet nights, with a crescent moon lingering over the water, old fishermen sat on porches, pipe smoke curling into phantom shapes, sighing to each other. What if the rumours are wrong? Maybe she's the saviour for our dry nights ahead. These hopeful gazes gave Kiana a flicker of warmth in the storm of scorn. In her soul, visions of clear water reviving barren rivers warmed her. Is the heavens testing me? If I can't change fate, I'll fight for faith. Yet suspicion dogged her steps. Beyond whispers, posters depicting Kiana as a grotesque hybrid, her swollen belly a watery orb, littered paths, docks and bridges. Seeing her distorted face, she closed her eyes, letting the salty breeze caress her hair, as if it whispered, "Though they hate, stay strong." In those moments, she knew her mission wasn't just to guard her child, but to defend faith in life, in the union of seemingly clashing waters. When Kiana ventured deep to gather food for her unborn, the village trembled, but she didn't falter. Beneath turquoise waves, she glided like a breeze, past ancient coral and black rock hollows where sea spirits hid. In distant fishing grounds, she brought back fresh catches for the poor. Each time, though fierce waves battered hidden cliffs, she faced them alone, one hand cradling her belly, the other seizing fish. Moonlight's faint glow reflected on her face, casting a resilient, briny beauty. Those waiting ashore, witnessing her, wept, realizing, amid dark curses, silent sacrifice is truly great. One afternoon, as sea winds turned wild and black clouds heralded a storm, Celeste's pirate band struck. They swarmed the beach, brandishing crude weapons, machetes, spears, taut ropes, fueled by hate. In the storm's lightning, Kiana stood serene, her calm unearthly. Her belly stirred fiercely, as if her child sensed the chaos. Under the sun's faint glint through clouds, curious, hateful, and eager eyes bore into her, craving the sacrificial rite. Wind lashed her skirt, its thin fabric rippling like water on sand. In that moment, Pensacola Bay held its breath. Waves stilled, leaving only throbbing heartbeats. Kiana closed her eyes, head slightly bowed, lips pressed, vowing, whatever calamity comes, I won't yield. My child deserves a future. As if the ocean heard, gentle ripples caressed her shoulders. As drums signaled the right, the storm roared fiercer. Thunder cracked, gales hurled pirates into disarray, waves sweeping their nets and scattering their ranks. The sea's bellow echoed, proclaiming, "No vile scheme prevails when nature champions the good." Through that fleeting tempest, Kiana was miraculously spared. Under torrential rain, she lifted her face, eyes alight with faith. The storm not only routed the mob, but washed away venomous flyers, littering the shore. Rain flooded gullies, cleansing mud and rumour's grime. Honest hearts, trembling with fear, surged with hope. They realised an unseen force guards Kiana and her child. In an instant, scornful glares softened to reverence, whispers coalescing into questions. Were we wrong? Could this mermaid be the saviour we've awaited? That night, as thunder rumbled distantly, Kiana stood in the salty current, arms cradling her belly, eyes closed, feeling each warm pulse. Fear had yielded to a fierce resolve to protect her child, a river-sea hybrid bearing the fate of two worlds. Moonlight pierced thick clouds, glinting on the water like 1,000 gems. She envisioned a future where her child grew free of curses, welcomed as new hope, proof of salt and sweet's wondrous blend. Her heart declared, "No matter the storm, I'll shield you to the end." Pensacola Bay's air shifted. Some remained wary, but none could deny the miracle before them. In homes along the shore by flickering oil lamps, Kiana's image became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that love and sacrifice could shatter prejudice. As dawn broke post-storm, sunlight filtered through willow leaves, casting glimmers on the water. The community began to believe the future wasn't doomed. The most wounded might inspire a new generation. In morning's haze, Kiana slipped from the shore, vanishing into thin mist like her love for her unborn child. Her footprints on the sand were fleeting, but her courage and faith echoed on. Children peeking from banyan groves, faces bright with hope, wondered, will we one day escape drought? Will fish return in droves? The answer, though unclear, resonated. Kiana isn't a threat to purge, but hope. Faith to revive our bay. At the docks, boats bobbed, tied to fishermen's dreams of bounty. Once skeptical eyes now turned seaward, where Kiana had merged with the waves, preparing for a perilous journey. In every African-American heart along the bay, a question lingered. If Kiana overcomes slander and schemes to birth the River Prince's son, will water's magic truly awaken? Could this question herald a new chapter, where human kindness, nature's grace, and maternal love unite in a hymn of peace? As radiant dawn gilded rippling waves, Pensacola Bay donned a new cloak, soft yet strong, warm yet challenging. They awaited a day when hate's cries yielded to children's laughter, when dry streams brimmed with life. In dawn's quiet, Kiana, pregnant mermaid, branded monster yet bearing hope, etched herself into their souls. Her story never paused here, for pain and love wove them together, crafting an eternal tapestry of courage, faith beyond prejudice, and the power of kindness amid life's storms. The challenge began when Kiana chose to wield her unique identity to spread hope among the impoverished children of fishermen around Pensacola Bay. Each night, as the sea breeze cooled and darkness draped the shore, she silently swam past radiant coral reefs under moonlight. In the deep, pulsing with the rhythm of waves, Kiana gathered provisions, hard bread, fresh-caught fish, and sturdy clothes. Then returned to the beach. In the quiet, broken only by lapping tides, she gently placed these gifts into the hands of needy children. Their fearful, lonely eyes sparkled with joy. They didn't know her origins, only that the bread and fish in their grasp warmed tomorrow's meals. Through Kiana, many poor families' dinners transcended mere crumbs. Parents whispered gratitude, their gazes shifting from doubt to reverence. Calloused fishermen's hands paused mid-row, silently watching the mermaid's silhouette vanish into the night. They spoke no words, but each glance carried thanks. Even amidst storms, Kiana persevered. She knew her quiet sacrifices embodied faith, faith that compassion could reshape destinies, even for the humblest souls. Yet these acts of kindness, which might have softened hardened hearts, unwittingly fanned the flames of conflict. In the River Palace, Queen Celeste, powerful and austere, learned of Kiana's aid to the poor. Instead of gratitude, she spun slander. To Celeste, every deed of the mermaid hid ulterior motives. She exploits the people's pity to build secret power, plotting to seize the river throne. Her venomous words were carefully fed to gossip-hungry ears, sowing suspicion. Kiana's no savior. She's a schemer, cloaked in saintly guise, to quietly claim queenship. Her lies took form in grotesque images strewn across the bay. Flyers portraying Kiana as a monstrous half-human, half-fish creature, her swollen belly a nest of alien spawn, littered fishing grounds and markets. Her once peaceful visage was twisted into a demonic mask, her jade-green eyes rendered soulless. At Dawn's market, posters plastered wooden posts, flapping in the wind, startling passers-by. Cold stares and chaotic whispers targeted Kiana. She became the focus of prejudice, a vessel for vague fears. As gusts tore flyers loose, scattering them on muddy bay paths, venomous chatter surged. "She's a curse! They say her presence will poison the water." Fishermen eyed the sea, fearing each wave carried doom. Mothers at boat queues averted their gazes, dodging Kiana's silent figure as she delivered aid. Some pointed, warning, "She's blinding us with kindness, but she aims to topple the royals." Amid this swelling hostility, Kiana stood unshaken. Deep in her heart, she cherished the hopeful eyes of beachside children, their shy smiles clutching fresh fish. She knew abandoning them over baseless rumors would leave more bellies empty, eyes dulled on the shore. So, against 1,000 pointed daggers, she held firm. "I only know to help. Amid countless schemes I weigh." In the night's embrace, Kiana dove beneath the waves, gliding past jagged stones, the deep sea cradling her in a cold yet serene dance. Among glowing coral, she gathered provisions, moonlight tracing dreamy glints on her skin. In those moments, she felt no loneliness. She was part of the ocean, a haven for the destitute seeking warmth. Returning to shore, her steps light on wet sand, she bore an unquenchable faith. In the days that followed, Kiana's nocturnal visits became a wondrous ritual. Villagers shared tales of her love and selflessness. She dove to the farthest fisheries for fresh seafood. Some spoke of her lingering by driftwood, cooking seaweed soup for motherless children. These small stories touched skeptical hearts. Fishermen's wary glances softened, doubt giving way to empathy's glint, but not all hearts thawed. Celeste's flyers and slanders fluttered across the bay, like nocturnal moths spreading fear. In her opulent palace, Celeste watched tiny flags bearing Kiana's image dance in the wind, smug in her scheme's success. She believed the people's rejection would force her son, the River Prince, to renounce his mermaid love to preserve the throne. Unbeknownst to her, each night, as darkness fell and the sea hushed, a being swam beneath waves, sustaining faith and compassion despite relentless prejudice. The battle between light and shadow, love and scorn, raged silently. In stillness, Kiana's heartbeat thundered, each breath drawn in deep waters a message to the world. Despite all cruelty, I'll keep sowing kindness. These warm seeds, though slow to sprout, burrowed into tender hearts, stirring those still swayed by doubt. The sea wasn't just a divide between worlds, but a crucible, revealing that love could transcend bias, needing only courage and steadfast spirit. As tensions surged to a fever pitch, Pensacola Bay donned the chaotic splendor of a hidden battlefield. Beneath a fiery sunset staining the water crimson, shadowed figures in black cloaks lurked, poised for the perfect moment to strike. They were Queen Celeste's hired hunters, armed with coarse nets, ready to drag their target to the seabed at the first chance. That moment came abruptly. Kiana, savouring the day's lingering warmth on the sand, froze at an odd sound. The sinking sun cast a halo, its rays glinting off her sea-damp hair, weaving a radiant sheen across her skin. Suddenly, a net eclipsed her vision, yanking away the boundary between sand and surf. Dazed, Kiana staggered, but survival's spark flared. She thrashed fiercely, water spraying, sand churning in a haze. Her cry rang out, a haunting lament, not the blood of a monster, but the sacred life of a mermaid, pulsing with the ocean's vitality. Yet, amid the crowd's frenzied shouts, her plea dissolved. The lonely days when Kiana and the River Prince found solace in secret seemed unable to wait for peace. Back then, under twilight's hazy veil by the river, they'd shared fierce glances, vowing that despite royal condemnation, they'd never let go. Now, in the maelstrom of love and survival, the prince glided through the mob. His heart churned, reason yielding to raw emotion. Glimpsing the scars of slander strewn across the bay, he resolved to reach Kiana, as if to shield her with his body. Amid crashing waves, water sprayed, mingling with his furious cries, echoing their unyielding anguish. Their love, a raw wound yet to heal, drove the prince to act. Defying the divide between river and sea, he plunged into the salty torrent. Each step on sand, foam bursting, resounded with a fierce desire to protect his beloved. But behind him, Queen Celeste loomed, her sinister smile glinting with calculation. She waved a hand, proclaiming her unshaken power. "Cast the net!" One command, enough to drown the cries for mercy rising from the sea. As the net tightened, the prince faltered briefly. Despite his efforts, water lashed his face, flinging his sodden hair, blinding him momentarily. His heart pounded, aching as Kiana was dragged from shore. She writhed, delicate hands clawing at slippery sand, but the net's knot cinched, pulling her back away from his warmth. The sea wind wailed a mournful dirge, stilling onlookers' breaths. Sand clung to the prince's feet, but he surged forward, arms flailing to halt the mob. Each step sank into heavy, wet sand as if it sought to bind him, yet he pressed on. He knew if he didn't reach her, the child in Kiana's womb would lose its first breath. But in a flash, the net plunged deeper, swallowed by the sea's roar. Kiana, gasping, was swept away. Faint blood speckled her lips as she tilted her head, seeking the prince, her eyes blazing with defiance. A mermaid's blood wasn't Calamity's seed, but life's emblem. Though her lips trembled, she believed he wouldn't abandon her. In the stifling haze of clouds and fervour, the faceless hunters cheered, thinking victory theirs. But suddenly, waves beneath the net erupted, crashing against its weave as if to shatter unseen chains. The sea, home to Kiana's ancestors, refused silence before such savagery. Amid frothing foam, another form glimmered, a fragile hope flaring. Pale blue rays pierced the churning water, tracing a mystical aura. In the sunset's flash and this strange radiance, the net tore, ropes snapping. Gasps mingled with fearful thunder, as if the crowd recoiled before the ocean's might. The prince saw his chance, diving toward the frothy surge, heart racing like 1,000 arrows piercing his chest. Water shoved, sand swirled beneath, but he didn't stop. With each stroke, Kiana's form emerged in the jade-lit waves. Soaked, she radiated majesty, her small hand reaching for his. Their eyes met, a gaze brimming with a hunger to live, to protect. In that instant, his heart melted, propelling him into the ocean's embrace. Celeste, smirking arrogantly from the shore, flinched at the spectacle. Her icy smile faded, replaced by panic. She couldn't fathom why the waves sang for love, not terror. The cosmos hushed, leaving only the prince and Kiana's locked gazes and the sea's lambent blue glow. In the vast ocean, love became magic, potent enough to defy all darkness. Amid the sea's roar, the prince reached Kiana, their hands clasping as if to never part. Even beyond this world, weakened, her eyes held a mermaid's fearless grace. He lifted her above the surface, water scattering, catching the sunset's dying embers. Her drenched clothes clung, yet couldn't dim hope's youthful light. He whispered, words lost in waves. She wouldn't face life alone. The crowd, spent by the gale, watched them vanish into white foam. They saw their error. They'd treated a noble being as a beast. Flyers vilifying her swirled away, littering the empty sand. Waves murmured, for the first time since chaos erupted, answering with urgency. The sea wouldn't bend to human hate. In a flash, all knew this day would echo as a lesson in courage and love, of a steadfast mermaid and a prince braving peril. Under the waning sunset, the prince swam swiftly into the ocean's heart, holding Kiana amid rising waves. As waves lapped the shore, Pensacola Bay resonated with a new sound, hope's radiant hymn, love enduring despite doubt. As night fell, coral's gleam wove a silken glow, testifying to a harrowing journey of lovers risking all between river and sea. The first crescendo erupted as torchlight pierced the thick darkness, casting an eerie glow where the fading sky met the moonlit bay. Kiana, bound tightly to jagged stone stakes along the sandy shore, swayed precariously, ropes biting into her back, shoulders and wrists. Before her, a throng of fishermen awaited the sacrificial moment, their hearts stilled amid the waves' rhythmic pulse, like the sea's final breath. Just as hope seemed extinguished, a crystalline sound cut through the icy night, a soaring song laced with the ocean's briny breath, jolting Pensacola Bay awake. This wasn't a mortal's prayer, but a fleeting beam sweeping the air, compelling every gaze to turn. The song swelled across the waves, growing richer as if the entire ocean resonated in harmony. As its echo faded, a radiant figure emerged on the sand. Naira, the legendary mermaid of southern fishermen's tales. Amid flickering flames and enveloping night, she strode from the water, her silver-white hair flowing like moonlight, dancing with sea breezes. Naira's eyes, steeped in sorrow, held the weight of an ocean spirit weathered by eons of rise and ruin. Under the wavering torchlight, Naira's steps traced graceful arcs on the water's edge, defying tales of a cold, omnipotent being. Her slender frame was captivating, blending a woman's softness with the sea's latent might. Every eye, from seasoned fishermen to trembling children by the docks, locked onto her. In that suspended moment, Naira raised a hand, halting time. With a gentle wave, the water around her churned violently, a primal roar poised to erupt. A sudden sea gust surged, whipping fine sand, staggering Celeste's hunters. They hurled heavy nets at Kiana, but Naira's summoned torrent swept them away, shattering the trap. Salty waves, pulsing with the ocean's breath, crashed in white foam, toppling the aggressors onto wet sand, where they flailed in chaos. Screams, tearing nets, and howling winds wove a fierce symphony, igniting Kiana's final spark of hope. Amid the turmoil, Kiana remained bound, but as Naira's empowered waves reached her, the ropes loosened. Briny water flooded in, seeping through crevices, washing away clinging sand. In an instant, she felt a miraculous lift, as if the ocean's breath soothed her physical pain. Kiana opened her eyes, lashes glistening with sea salt, and saw Naira standing tall on the surf, her gaze both tender and fierce, as if saying, "I've come to save you, to show you light endures in storms." No words were spoken, but Naira's eyes conveyed profound empathy, a silent vow that Kiana wasn't alone. As the final ropes fell, Naira swept her hand, conjuring a warm current to cradle Kiana, lifting her from the stakes. The thick, salty tide, like a mother's embrace, enveloped her sacred form. Onlookers gaped, their fear and awe entwined. They'd branded Kiana a monster to be destroyed, But now witnessing Neaera, ocean's myth incarnate, they conceded nature had chosen Kiana and Nyra would guide her onward. In the dim torchlight and moon's pale sheen, Nyra knelt beside Kiana, her hand resting lightly on her shoulder, imparting solace and courage. Nyra's eyes, still tinged with sorrow, held a promise. Though the path ahead was fraught, Kiana wouldn't face it alone. Breaths held, waves slowed, as if listening for Kiana's resolve. She nodded faintly, closing her eyes to savor the sea's warm touch. Without hesitation, Nyra took Kiana's arm, guiding her from the damp sand. Waves lapped gently beneath, soothing their wounds. Step by step, two beings, one a destined mermaid, the other bearing human blood, entered the emerald sea. Under silver moonlight, the water mirrored their silhouettes, a vision of unyielding maternal love. The song that began it all faded, leaving the ocean's tender lullaby. Waves rocked softly, carrying Neaera and Kiana into the abyss, vanishing in crystalline depths. Their forms dissolved into the sea's vast tears, leaving a silence brimming with wonder and hope. The fishermen stood transfixed, hearts pausing, realizing the story wasn't over. Nyra's song and their dive would linger in skeptical minds, a reminder that in darkest nights, torches guide, and amid life's storms, the sea's breath shelters those who dare believe in miracles. Kiana awoke in an ethereal realm where faint light slipped through crevices above, shimmering onto the heart of an underwater palace beneath Pensacola Bay. Silver glints from countless gemstones embedded in coral floors cast a radiant yet melancholic glow. Towering white coral pillars, draped in glistening moss, rose like crystal spires, forming a path into the ocean's depths. Kiana inhaled the briny air, feeling cool water embrace her, then opened her eyes to find herself seated on a soft seaweed tapestry beneath a pearlescent vaulted ceiling. Her heart surged with fear and wonder, for this was no place she'd imagined. A subaqueous palace, opulent, yet steeped in solitude. Nyra's gentle steps guided Kiana through subterranean corridors, where coral walls bore carvings of the river royal bloodline weaving through the ocean's cosmos. Ancient etchings told of their origins, a freshwater king wedded to a sea goddess, birthing a hybrid lineage. In the glow of myriad pearls, intricate details gleamed, fine cracks in the coral, iridescent veins in the stone, testaments to power and love uniting two worlds. The water's murmur echoed through the palace, a sea whisper yearning to recount a tragic epic. Amid this splendor, Nyra paused before a vast mother-of-pearl wall, where Queen Celeste's image was carved, her face cold, eyes resolute. Here, Kiana heard Nyra's tale of Celeste's treachery. Wielding supreme power, she crushed the people's faith, hiring seers to spread lies that the River Prince's union with a mermaid would birth a cursed child, fated for sacrifice to keep the waters pure. Each word struck Kiana like an icy arrow, her heart clenching in shock and pain. She recalled stormy nights when Celeste's pirates hunted her, the queen smirking from the shore, gloating over her scheming triumph. Kiana reeled, learning Celeste used oracles to sow terror, convincing the community she was a harbinger of woe. Nyra's narrative painted Celeste not just as cruel but as haunted by dread, fear of losing power, of royal honor tarnished. Celeste clung to the old order's value, terrified of a Riversea child erasing boundaries and shaking her dynasty forever. For a moment, Kiana felt the river itself whisper ancient secrets, of silent wars for dominance, where the prince and mermaid's love was branded a grievous sin. Her heart sank, realizing the hunt stemmed not from mere malice, but from a clan's existential panic. In the radiant glow of the palace walls, Kiana glimpsed Nyra's deep loneliness. Even a legend like Nyra, revered across the south, couldn't escape solitude. Her silver hair shone like moonlight, but her eyes held the distant gaze of one who'd seen countless tides of rise and fall. In that instant, Kiana sensed the sea's mournful breath, a vast sorrow where grandeur and struggle entwined. Nearer met Kiana's gaze, her eyes soft as dew on sea petals. Her voice, not booming but gentle as a primal breeze, said, "You're not alone, not while the ocean is your ally. One day, you'll see how human and sea must merge." Her words, like warm waves, eased Kiana's unease. She realized that though small, she could find strength and kinship in the boundless sea. In the majestic yet somber palace, Kiana knew the path ahead was daunting, but Naira's guidance into these depths showed she wasn't alone. The coral pillars stood as witnesses that despite differing fates, river and sea could unite, forging unrivaled power. The palace, for all its beauty, bore scars of power struggles, yet Kiana vowed silently she wouldn't let fear or schemes dictate her life. With love and courage, she'd protect her budding child and nurture hope for both worlds. Pearl lights on the ceiling twinkled like stars beneath the sea, illuminating Kiana's path. Under Naira's touch, each oceanic breath surged with new strength. Past echoes, Celeste's lies, her cold smirk, yielded to visions of sacred motherhood and harmony with nature. The palace wasn't just a stage for ruthless power, but a promised land where love began and faith was reborn. Kiana closed her eyes, her heartbeat blending with the sea's sigh, readying for a quest to save not just herself, but dreams of peace between river and sea. In the tranquil darkness of the bay's palace, Kiana stepped forward with newfound confidence, knowing the River Royal's glory wasn't all. True greatness lay in forgiveness and resolve, making her a beacon of hope for Pensacola's shadowed shores. As Neera's words rang like a final hymn, Kiana felt deeply that, though her journey was long, the vast ocean would always cradle brave souls like hers. Kiana's labour loomed, each gentle contraction a whisper heralding a destiny poised to erupt. The waters of Pensacola Bay calmed eerily, as if awaiting an unprecedented miracle. Waves lapped softly, murmuring like the sea's anxious breath. In that moment, Kiana was gently guided into a chamber awash in pale green light. Not artificial, but a mystical shimmer, like moonlight dissolved on water glinting from countless gems beneath coral. The room felt detached from the world, its white coral walls intricately carved with vibrant sea creatures. Above, a pearlescent dome gleamed emerald, rendering the space enchanting, a sacred realm. Naira stood by Kiana, her eyes brimming with salty tears. In the soft glow, Neera's silver hair shimmered like moonlight adrift in the void. Her delicate hand rested on Kiana's rounded belly, where a tiny life stirred, eager to enter the world. Kiana's heartbeat merged with the water's pulse, radiating warmth tinged with dread. Each pang of pain made her body tremble, yet Naira's presence soothed her soul. Even in the crystal-clear water, the room's details stood vivid. White coral pillars casting faint glows, buried gems sparkling pale blue, etched with the River Kingdom's timeless scars, and silken seaweed carpeting the floor, cradling hopeful calloused steps. For all its opulence, the space held a quiet melancholy, as if bearing an unresolved saga of sorrow. Far off, the sweet river churned with fiercer waves, signalling the River Prince's approach, bearing a pearl crown. This emblem of royal legitimacy was for Kiana, proof the dynasty acknowledged her. Emerging at the fragile boundary of two worlds, he rose from fresh water, stretching to meld with the salty sea. His eyes brimmed with hope and fear, yet burned with resolve. None saw how he'd evaded Celeste's claws, only that he held the sole token to alter Kiana's fate. News of Kiana's imminent birth reached the River Palace, where Queen Celeste sat rigid on her pearl throne. The tidings ignited an unquenchable fury within her. Resolved to confront them, she aimed to drag her war from sweet rivers to the ocean's depths. Celeste plunged downriver, crossing the divide between fresh and salt, clad in a resplendent scale cloak. She led her pirate guard, brutal men fearing no creature bound to her will. Their advance stirred violent waves, heralding an inevitable clash. When Celeste appeared, the air tautened like a bowstring, caught between hope and hatred. Kiana rested on a seaweed throne, her swollen belly stark beneath thin waterlogged cloth. The palace hushed, only her heartbeat and the brackish water's lap echoing. Celeste strode past coral pillars, her dark gaze scanning gem-lit depths, calculating power's every facet. Halting before Kiana, her voice boomed, "You're unworthy of the throne! That child is a sin the royals reject!" Her words, fiery arrows, pierced Kiana's heart, her veins trembling. The chamber held its breath as gemlight flickered, mirroring for a moment, the unborn child stilled, thickening the tension. Then, waves beneath the river prince surged, as if roused by royal blood. He rose from the water, eyes blazing with fury and unyielding love. "You're wrong, Celeste," his voice thundered, slicing the gloom. "Look at her and her child. They're born to save, not destroy." The water at his feet roared, swelling into towering waves, blocking Celeste's assault, as if the sea rallied to his truth. Yet the foe wouldn't yield. At Celeste's command, sharp spears gleamed, aimed at Kiana. Their tips caught the pale blue light, tracing cold arcs in the jade-hued chamber. Kiana flinched, her belly wrenching, signaling her child's urge to be born amid this chaos. Naira, beside her, eyes sorrowful yet resolute, gently drew Kiana into the water's shadow, shielding her from the advancing spears. But in that instant, the river prince surged through crashing waves, his form strong and valiant, water tracing royal veins on his skin. He caught Kiana, easing her onto a sturdy coral seat. The ocean's depths rose, blanketing the coral floor, forming a watery wall against treachery. The prince's gaze burned with faith, stunning Celeste. She'd never seen such might, born not just of royal blood, but of a mother's imminent love. As waves pounded, the palace quaked, coral pillars trembling under the sea's awakened force. Kiana felt the briny water's warmth encircling her. Sea breezes slipped through crevices, carrying chill and the ocean's roaring echo. A faint smile curved her lips, seeing the prince stand between foes, ready to sacrifice for her and their unborn child. The chamber glowed with silver gemlight, but only waves and brave breaths resounded. The space beneath the bay froze, witnessing this courage, a moment when love and mercy could stir the deepest sea. The storm of power hadn't subsided, but another force had risen, shielding the smallest lives. In the azure glow, Kiana, poised to birth a river-sea heir, would forge a tale of hope, forgiveness, and maternal might. Though trials loomed, today's waves under the prince's feet proved, even in power's tempest, a steadfast gaze and voice can summon strength to touch the ocean's core. The climax erupted as Kiana, laid upon a vast coral bed at the heart of the underwater palace, endured her fiercest pains. Contractions surged like tsunamis from the ocean's depths, coursing through her, every fibre trembling as if dissolving into mist. Kiana's faint, anguished cries echoed through the palace, a tempest's wail in the sea's core, flinging foam along coral paths. Pearl lanterns encrusted with mother-of-pearl on the vaulted ceiling cast a pale glow, weaving a mesmerizing yet haunting scene for this life-or-death moment. Each of Kiana's laboured breaths, heavy with pain, melded with the ocean's rhythm. Waves seemed to pulse from all directions, affirming an unseen force governing life. Naira never left her side, her sorrowful eyes fierce with resolve. In the dim green light, Naira's hand steadied Kiana's belly, unwavering as a coral pillar, infusing warmth and calm amid the brutal labour. Sea breezes swirled through white coral passages, their murmurs soothing the pained souls. Time stilled, leaving only the cries of life straining to emerge from a mother-to-be. Like a tragic refrain, her screams shook coral fragments, stirring gemstones aglow on the seabed. Each contraction swelled her belly like an ocean drum, chaotic echoes blending with ragged breaths. The bay's depths flared with pale blue light, like stars beneath the sea, as if the ocean held its breath for the miracle to come. Then, the wondrous moment arrived. The child's first cry rang out, harmonizing with the sea's roar, a vibrant symphony that stirred azure depths. In an instant, the space awoke to that pure sound, water droplets igniting, shimmering with jade and pearl hues. Kiana's weary, proud smile as she heard her child's cry moved all who witnessed it to tears. The infant emerged in the radiant glow, a river prince, human in form, yet with starlit eyes, sea jade skin, and hair curling like water's swirls. His cries, innocent yet potent, resounded as if he'd lingered through 1,000 lives. In that moment, Pensacola Bay's waters surged with life. Torrents roared, waves soared, erasing doubts and fears dividing river and sea. Across the bay, from hidden coral crevices to glistening sands, water pulsed with emotion. Parched hopes revived, faded life merged into new currents. The scene was a divine deluge, reawakening a vast expanse. Drought's curse, scarce fish, starving poor, vanished. Fishermen gazed at mingling salt and sweet waters, seeing the curse lifted. In once skeptical eyes, new faith gleamed. This child could prove the balance of two worlds. This surreal spectacle silenced Celeste, perched on a high coral ledge. The proud, mighty River Queen watched the waters surge, her savage schemes rendered petty. She'd sown fear, claiming the child was a plague, that his birth would doom royal power. Now the prince's essence, born of river and sea, revived barren streams. In the mystic light of the infant's arrival, Celeste saw power lay not in crushing hope, but in fostering life. The bay's depths hushed, gems flaring beams that painted a vivid clash of dark and light. Coral pillars bowed to the new current, heralding an era of motherhood, faith and rebirth. The prince's cries wove with lapping waves, affirming Pensacola Bay would shed its curses and hate. Kiana, exhausted yet elated, closed her eyes, letting the sea's solace flood her. The child rested gently in her arms, his innocent cries blending with her joyful breaths, a hymn of eternal love. The river prince, standing astride two waters, gazed silently, knowing true power wasn't thrones or crowns, but this tiny life. His tear-filled eyes held fierce pride and hope for tomorrow. The wondrous scene sparked a profound shift. Spears and blades once aimed at Kiana drooped, sinking beneath gentle waves. Shouts faded, yielding to the sea's soothing murmur, a lullaby for dawn. Pensacola Bay, once choked by fear, was cleansed in cool currents, embracing a true heir, a prince of river and sea, born of their union. As pale green light bathed the palace, enveloping Kiana and her child, it stood as proof. In deepest dark, an unseen force shields the brave. Beneath the vast ocean, tales of sacrifice and power became history. The newborn, in his first moments, charted a path for the arid land, one of hope, revival and harmony between sweet river and salty sea, where gentle waters nurture every soul at the bay. A wave of hope surged through Pensacola's community as the rumor of the monstrous mermaid was swept away by a miraculous truth. The moment the newborn river prince uttered his first cry, the parched salt water of the bay roared to life in an unprecedented torrent. The underwater realm quaked, sapphire beams sweeping across coral, shimmering with jade brilliance. Schools of fish, long vanished in drought, swarmed back, darting vibrantly at the river's mouth, foraging as if celebrating a grand jubilee. Gulls wheeled above, their cries echoing in a jubilant chorus of life, spreading joy to every sandy nook. Waves, once fierce, now lapped gently, soothing away the gloom that had weighed on fishermen's hearts. Fishers across the bay, from seasoned veterans of dry seasons to struggling families, gaped at the miracle, eyes wide with awe. They beheld the tiny prince, human in form, yet embodying the fusion of sweet and salty waters, potent enough to revive shattered lagoons. Without hesitation, those who'd echoed rumours and hurled stones at Kiana now trembled, hearts heavy with remorse. They knelt on wet sand, heads bowed, lips quivering, unable to speak, only the rhythmic waves behind them rejoicing in the rebirth. We were wrong. Their silent confessions stirred the air, clasping hands, faces wet with regret, their eyes brimmed with contrition. Doubt and slander dissolved into the salty sand, yielding to a reborn faith. As waters flooded the bay like warm rain when sin quenching arid land, Queen Celeste approached, her eyes streaked with unstoppable tears. She looked up, seeing Kiana, the daughter-in-law she'd vilified, and her newborn grandson, the embodiment of love bridging river and sea. The fragile power she'd clung to for years crumbled before nature's miracle, stripping away her royal prejudices. She stepped closer, waves lapping softly like a final hymn, washing away resentment. In that moment, Celeste saw not an enemy but a mother. A queen mother who'd loved her son but let fear and power blind her heart. She stood transfixed, eyes heavy with dread and awe. As briny water wove through her, she felt her soul stir, urging, "Kneel before truth." Without pause, Celeste sank to her knees, head bowed, body trembling. Pearls beneath her glinted blue, witnessing a queen's repentance. She knelt deeper on soft sand, her regal form frail before nature. Frothy waves caressed, absolving her sins. Looking at Kiana, Celeste's voice broke. I lost my faith in you." Her words quivered, not with menace, but as a fragile confession of a mother grasping sacrifice and maternal love. The warm tide lapped her feet, rinsing away lingering hate, leaving a poignant silence. Kiana, smiling gently, eyes half closed, as if hearing the sea's breath, shone with serenity. Her wet hair clung to her brow, traces of birth's blood lingering on her skin, yet her face radiated calm. As Celeste grappled with the clear water swirling at her feet, Kiana's soft voice, like a lullaby, murmured, "Mother, maternal love stems not from power, but from compassion." Those fragile words reshaped Pensacola Bay's currents. Kiana's love healed hatred, her forgiveness banishing doubt. Celeste couldn't stem her tears at her daughter-in-law's words. Each drop mingled with salty waves, not just regret, but a profound awakening. Her cherished power and hate were dust before life's miracle and sacred motherhood. She knelt lower, bowing to Kiana and her grandson, bathed in cleansing tides. All cruelty and bloody schemes were swept away, leaving no bitter trace. The Pensacola community stood hushed, profoundly moved. Fish danced in gleaming waters, proof of a miracle born from the sea's heart. Gulls' cries soared, their wings weaving nature's symphony across the bay. Drought ended, replaced by balance's melody, a union of sweet and salt, river and sea, human and nature. In the jade glow spreading over the water, Kiana cradling her child by coral became an eternal emblem of compassion. Pensacola Bay, purged of fear and slander, was reborn. Fishermen who'd cast stones stood silent, tears falling, gazing reverently at mother and child. They saw love and mercy's wonder. Learning power lay not in thrones, but in open hearts ready to mend broken faith. As the day's final sunset faded, the bay donned a new mantle of hope, a yearning for harmony between river and sea, unyielding to deceit and hate's storms. As the clamour subsided, Pensacola's community realised their tale had transcended personal power and schemes. Recognising Kiana and the River Prince's rightful authority wasn't just a royal ritual, but proof of a higher truth, unity between humanity and the sea, compassion surpassing prejudice, and nature's mystic power hidden in the ocean's heart. Kiana, once harshly judged as a pregnant mermaid, now stood as an eternal symbol of harmony between two worlds, the human tribe and the ocean's empire. Pensacola awoke from days of dread. Once barren lagoons now sang with fish darting for prey, gulls swirling in azure skies. The newborn river prince's breath redrew paths for waters thought lost. Gulls' cries trumpeted a radiant dawn for lives drained of hope. Fishermen who'd shunned and stoned Kiana's gentle form knelt on muddy sand, eyes wet with remorse. Bowing, they sought forgiveness, yearning for the sea's lost peace. Waves, no longer fierce, sang a clear, open-hearted chorus. Amid the reverent, silent crowd, Queen Celeste stood alone, dwarfed by nature's surge and the grandeur of maternal love. Tears traced her cheeks, her vaunted power now hollow before life's miracle. She turned to Kiana, eyes swirling with resentment for shattered plots yet lifted by her grandson's birth. I lost faith in you, Celeste choked, her voice mingling with lapping waves, her tears blended with the briny tide cleansing her sins. Kiana, pale and spent from childbirth, smiled softly. Her forgiving gaze shimmered, and with closed eyes, she whispered like a lullaby, "Mother, maternal love springs not from power, but from compassion." Time paused. Pearl's faint glow reflected on their faces, shattering fragile divides. Salty waves caressed Kiana and Celeste's feet, recalling all life's origins. Tears merged with seawater, seeding a reborn kingdom where love and mercy reigned, not scheming might. Celeste knelt deeper, bowing to her daughter-in-law and newborn heir, pledging a new era of compassion and unity between humanity and the sea. Kiana and the River Prince's story didn't end there. Beyond this glory lay a profound lesson. When people unite, when fear yields to forgiveness, nature revives and miracles unfold. Pensacola stood tall, not just for restored waters, but for the deep truth that unity brings lasting prosperity. Once silent lagoons rang with children's laughter, fishermen sailed with hope in abundant seas, and homes along the shore glowed with renewed faith. For Celeste, the lesson went beyond repentance. Punished for her ruthless plots, she remained in the palace, not for glory, but to labour on dikes and waterworks for the River Kingdom. Each bead of sweat was penance, atoning for her past cruelty. Her toiling figure, bent under salty winds, proved power crumbles without humility and justice. Naira, Kiana's saviour through the harrowing journey, became a new legend in African-American culture. Her silver silhouette rising under moonlight inspired lyrical ballads. Naira's song echoed in cosy dinners by beach campfires, a lullaby for poor children who, though ignorant of her voice, felt the sea's warmth. She was the guardian of the lost, soothing struggling souls. Fishermen shared tales of Naira, how each night, as the silver sea stretched fast, she'd appear, bearing hope for the suffering. Yet Kiana and the River Prince's saga didn't close. In the bay's depths, a fourth force, ancient foes envious of the river royals, lurked, watching the new power. They bided their time, poised to surge like rogue waves. Will the young prince, with his starlit eyes, grow to forge a new dynasty? Will old enemies let river and sea rest, or seize flaws to sow war anew? These questions, like lingering salty drops, seeped into fishermen's minds, none daring to claim peace was eternal. In quiet nights, as sea breezes teased willows, waves whispered that every life is a wondrous, turbulent journey. Kiana, the River Prince, Naira, and Celeste's tale wove on. Encounters of humanity and sea, love and power, sacrifice and hope. Will Kiana's dream of harmony endure, or will ancient foes stir waves to threaten this fledgling faith? If you're captivated by this enchanting saga and crave what's next for Kiana, the River Prince, and Naira, subscribe to African Tales Best, hit the bell, and share this video with friends across the US to catch the thrilling part 2. Comment below. Where in the States are you watching from? And what do you hope for in the next chapter? Join us to explore the mysteries beneath the boundless waves.